Hello there, and welcome to Women's Business.
My name is Dr. Marianne Shallcross Smith, known to most as Dr. Daycare, and this is my co-host, Amy Vogel. We'd like to welcome you to our mentoring program designed to educate our community on issues facing working women. We will be speaking to our guests in the areas art, sciences, health, education, law, medicine, politics, community service, military, and business.
The goal of the show is to provide information that comes only from personal experience and to pass this information down to our daughters, nieces, neighbors, family, and friends. Much of the content will relate to the guest speaker's journey in their profession, what they have learned most about this process, and what they wished they had known before this journey began. Since women-owned businesses are the fastest growing sector of our economy, my guests will close with what lesson they would like to pass on to the viewing audience. Thank you for joining me on Women's Business. I am Amy Vogel and honored to welcome Nicole Majik of Majik LLC into the Empowerment Coaching and Intuitive Guidance Organization. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't you explain a little bit about intuitive guidance and empowerment coaching for the listening audience that might not be aware of what it is?
Okay, great. Intuitive coaching and guidance and empowerment coaching is all about really tapping into who you are as a person, what your true essence is, and then bringing that out so that you overcome your fears, challenges, the things that hold you back, and create the life that you were really designed to live.
Very cool. Now, how do you become an empowerment coach? You said something about essence. Mm-hmm. So is there like different types of essences, or how does that work?
So with who you are, we all have an energetic fingerprint,
okay,
so to speak. And I've seen auras all my life.
Oh, cool.
So the energy around somebody and really understanding what that is and what that means for the individual, you can start to see, or that's how I saw things, is you start to see what people are actually all about and where things are holding them back.
Great.
So when it comes to becoming that coach, I've been through a lot of different things in my life, and it was through those experiences that I was able to help guide people and seeing the energy around them to help them do what they needed to do to step into who they are.
Wow, that's amazing. So when you say you see auras around them, is that their energy?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Sorry, I'm just trying
That's
to
okay.
make sure we have this saying exactly right.
Yes.
Now, when you figured out that you had this talent and this skill, were you a little bit like, oh, what do I do with it? Or did you have to kind of evolve it the way you felt best?
It was kind of funny when I discovered that I had this gift. We were actually in church.
Really?
And even though everybody else seemed to have the colors change around them, when we were in church, the priest always was purple. So one day the priest was actually green. And I turned to my mom and I said, hey, Mom, how come Father so-and-so is green today and he's always purple? And she looked at me and crouched down and was like, you see color around people? And I was probably about 7 years old at the time. So it was then that I realized that not everybody sees things the way that I do.
Because if you never, as a child, if you always saw things one way, you're assuming everyone else sees the exact same way.
Right.
That's amazing.
So it was kind of interesting. And then I started to discover, what colors actually meant through experience and seeing things and, analyzing people and watching people. And fast forward, I realized today that, the priest was green instead of purple. The purple was a very intuitive, spiritual color, but the green, he was actually moved to another parish. So it was the green of change and transformation.
Oh my gosh. So each color has a different meaning.
And even the hues of each color have different meanings.
So, don't make fun of me, but I'm going to try to ask you. So when you see a person,
Yes.
is it all the time or every now, like how does it, is it like around their being?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like different colors and there could be different like shades of it, hues of it.
Yes.
That's amazing. And you've always had this and you've always assumed everyone else saw things this way.
Yes.
That's absolutely amazing. That is, so when you said, so when your mom found this out and you're like, okay, how did you then develop your talent from there? Or did you just kind of like, oh, that's who Nicole is? Like, how did that work?
That was really interesting because I did grow up in a very, very strict Christian household. And some of the things that I had abilities with were looked at as very taboo and, you know, not right. So I do remember my mom actually tried to exercise me once.
Oh gosh.
Yes. I love my mom. She's awesome.
Yeah.
It,
Well, it's
you know,
probably
it was
she
just
didn't
you
know
didn't
what was
know.
going on. She was like, wait,
Right.
what's going on and how do I define it? Because there's no like definition or box kind of to put it in.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So you always fear what you don't know. And if you fear something, you're going to do something that you think is going to counteract or, you know, battle that fear.
Yep.
And, you know, I don't hold anything against her for that. And actually, all of my experiences have made me who I am and understanding a lot of who I am and what I'm about and how I can help people.
That's amazing. So if someone was to come, now do you practice out of your house or do you have a place, a workplace?
I do a lot through online programs that I
Okay.
have, or in person, as well as online Zoom type of
Okay.
video conferencing. And I do a lot of appearances at other people's wellness shops, as well as different workshops that I hold.
That's amazing. So if someone wanted to come to you, what would be like a typical, how does it work? So let's say I have a group of friends and we want to, would you bring a group of people with you or is it an individualized type situation?
It depends what you want.
Okay.
When I do the aura photography, I
Oh, wow.
can capture your photo on film with the energy around you, and then what I do is I do a reading with that and show you with the picture what it is that I see. So I see different things like the colors as well as thought forms and stresses and things like that.
That's amazing.
So people can hold parties. I've done parties at people's houses or individualized at a shop or if I'm holding an event, that type of thing.
And what would one expect if they went? Because I'm sure you probably have some very nervous clients or some skeptical ones.
Sometimes skeptical, not really understanding, you know, what it is, or maybe a little fearful about what might be seen and said and that kind of thing, where I always make people feel at ease because everybody has an aura. Nobody has a black aura.
Which is black aura mean?
Well, a lot of people say, oh my God, I think my aura might be black. You know, just gloom and doom.
Got it.
So it's not about that. Everybody has colors. There may be stressors in there, and if there are stressors in there, that's not a bad thing either, because it's more about bringing the awareness to what can be changed, and then I never let people walk away just saying, oh, here are the pieces that you need to work on. Good luck with that. So I always give some kind of technique that might kickstart them in that direction.
That's amazing. Now, Reiki, that's a form of energy
Yes.
work as well. Do you do that as well, or is that different?
I practice energy healing, yes.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing.
It's fun.
It's, well, because you have this gift, only certain people can, I'm assume, do this. So,
I really believe everybody could.
really?
And if you just tapped into it, that you would be able to, especially with the energy healing, I think anybody can do that. As far as the aura, I think if you can tap into that piece of you that can allow that vision to develop, because we suppress a lot when we're growing up.
That's amazing. So over your journey, when you've kind of decided that, now right when you became an adult, did you say, I'm going to do this? Or did you like try other things and come back to this?
That was something that just evolved.
Okay. So what was your career path previous to this? So if someone's like wants to know about empowerment and intuitive guidance, and they're worried themselves, or they're fearful to kind of make the step, how did you kind of do that yourself? How did you not fear it and just go for it?
For me, I had no choice.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I actually used to be a chemist,
Really?
and there was a couple things that had happened in my life. So when I was working in chemistry, I actually had a near-death experience that is inexplainable about, coming back, and all of a sudden the gifts were amplified to a point where I was really trying to figure out what was going on. And then several years later, I came down with mercury poisoning.
Oh, wow.
And through that, it seemed like everything in my life was crumbling around me, because it got to destroy some neurological functions in my brain. I wasn't able to fully do my job at the capacity that I was. I had run a group of 5 people. I was doing a lot of different programs and international work. And it seemed to destroy every aspect of what was going on. My relationships, because
From the mercury poisoning?
I lost my memory.
Oh, wow.
A good chunk of my memory. I was sick. It took me hours to get out of bed in the morning. Everything just seemed like there was no coming back out of it. And nobody knew what was wrong with me. So I was going through test after test after test for over a year with doctors, and nobody could figure it out. And then I finally realized that I had to figure this out, or I was definitely going to die.
Oh, wow.
And
So at this point you didn't know?
I didn't know.
Oh, wow.
Didn't know. And it took me passing out in front of my 2-year-old daughter at the time, and her trying to wake me up, just kind of, patting my cheek, laughing, and thinking that I was joking around with her, pretending I was sleeping or something. And I went to go pour her milk and some cereal, and passed out. Knowing that my son was upstairs and he didn't even hear me fall, and just go analyzing and maybe overanalyzing the situation, I realized that I had to figure it out. So when I sat down and went through, knowing that I help people and I intuitively help people, I was going to sit there until I figured it out.
That's amazing.
So
Your
I
health
did.
is your number one.
Yeah,
Any type of health, any well-being.
absolutely.
So you sat there and figured it out?
Yeah. So I
That's-
scanned my whole body,
Really?
and then all I could hear was mercury. So when I called my doctor up, he laughed at me.
Because that's not common.
Right. And he's like, "Oh, come on, Nicole." And I said, "Well, come on, it's a simple blood test. Can
Let's
you
try
just
it.
do it?"
Yeah, let's just try it. We've been through
Right.
everything else. Let's try this.
Yeah, I walked around with stuff attached to my head.
And
heart,
one blood test, you're
everything.
like,
I'm like,
take
"Just do
about 4
this."
minutes.
Right. So it's kind of funny. Funny, not funny. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So when the blood test came back, it was insanely high. And he said, "Okay, you need to see a specialist," which I did.
That is, that's amazing. Well, it's like when you go to, a lot of times when you do go to the doctors, everyone says, you know your body best.
Right.
Tell the doctors, they're experts, they're amazing, they've been through so much education, schooling, their own expertise in the field is amazing. However,
Yes.
you know you best.
You do.
Just do. Just tell them whatever you think and feel, and you're giving them more help anyway, because they're trying to just pick and figure it out. So
Right.
I think sometimes we go to the doctors like, oh, well, they'll know, versus
Yeah.
being like, you know what? Nope, I'm going to tell them everything.
And they can't know everything either. So,
No,
in
they're
their
human
defense,
themselves.
Exactly.
Like, they're trying to learn along the way as much as they can.
Right.
Wow, that's amazing. So you diagnosed yourself.
I did.
That's amazing.
What I didn't know was I had a I have a genetic mutation.
Okay.
And this genetic mutation, I can't eliminate heavy metals from my body. So when I was chronically exposed, all that happened was it just kept building up and building up. And
Because that's the chemistry
session.
lab work that you worked in originally?
Well, my office was right next to what they called the old thermometer room. And there was some work being done in that room, and it was, that was about the time when I felt like there were fumes coming in or something, that I felt confused and I couldn't focus and concentrate, and it just kept going downhill from there.
Oh, wow.
That
That's
was crazy.
That is, I just think it's simply amazing how you helped yourself like that. That is huge.
And I think that's what everybody can do, is if we really listen to ourselves and what's going on within us at that level. Sometimes you have to really sit and be very, very quiet and allow yourself to trust yourself enough to hear what's going on.
Now, when you see a lot of clients, or is that how you clients, I feel in today's day and age that we don't sit and listen to ourselves a lot. We'll do anything to busy ourselves, not to listen to ourselves.
Of course.
Whether it's your phone, whether it's, I don't know, watching TV or socializing, all that stuff. But to sit and just listen to yourself, I feel it's scary for a lot of people.
We live in a day of overstimulation.
Yes. How do we, in your experience, and because you've probably seen this more than I have, how do you try to teach people that overstimulation is sometimes not healthy? Like, what do you do to like make them, convince them? Because let's be honest, we're like, no, we need information. Information's everywhere. We got to gather information. That's going to make us a smart human. But there's so many other ways to be smart, right?
Yes. There are ways to work smartly. And I think that what people need are very simple ways to do things, because we tend to make things so much more complex than what they should be. Even I've noticed with some, we'll use the energy work, right? There are some energy modalities that they're very, very complex. And then there are some that are so super simple that somebody who might want to complicate things will say, oh, that's too simple, it won't work. Well, that simple technique can sometimes work much more profoundly than something that's complicated, because you're engaging your analytical brain. Sometimes you have to do things that are steps to get somebody outside of their analytical thinking. So it all depends on the person and what they need. So when I work with somebody, I really evaluate what type of person they are, how they need to learn something, or how they need to go about changing what programs that they already have. And a lot of times it's honing in on what are the subconscious patterns that they have, and being able to show them ways to be aware of when those things show up so that they can reprogram themselves.
Got it.
Using simple techniques.
Yes. I completely agree with you. I think a lot of times we overcomplicate things that we can't get to the final, whatever solution is or whatever the end result is. Sometimes the simplest way is the best way.
Part of the problem is that, 87% of what we hear and say is negative. And then on top of that, the subconscious is 1,000 more times powerful than the conscious. And when we're trying to do things to change from a negative to a positive, we have to battle the odds. And in order to get yourself into a conscious mode of doing things in a positive way, you have to overcome all those odds against you. So
it takes a lot of patience.
A lot of patience and just consistency.
Yeah. I think that's with everything with your well-being, right? Consistency. So when I run for one day, it doesn't make me naturally healthy. Or something it would. So have you ever so throughout your journey, professionally and personally, have you had a mentor that's kind of inspired you, or maybe multiple mentors? Has anyone kind of?
Through my youth, it was my aunt and my uncle. They were my godparents, so they were the ones who took me under their wing, went skiing and different things like that. So I spent a lot of time with them, and they were the people that I looked up to the most in my life. And my aunt always spoke in such a way where it was very positive and helping me to think outside of emotion. And I think that's a real key to anything, because once we're emotionally riled, we do not think rationally. So she helped me. She had a very like Zen way about her.
That's
And
amazing.
that was really a key element to me becoming me.
That's amazing. I think you're right. I think sometimes when we make decisions emotionally, we look back like, ooh, maybe we should have made that exact decision at that moment.
Right.
If we had just sat there, thought about it, and said, okay, let's kind of think this through, we might make a decision that we'll be happy with her in the long run.
Right.
But when you're in it, sometimes you just,
True.
So if anybody wanted to go to intuitive guidance or empowerment, how would you suggest they get in touch with either you or someone in the field? And so if people are like, I don't know if I need it. I think that's like the number one question. Is like,
Right.
well, do I need this? Like, how do I know? Is there really an answer for that, or is it?
I think so. I think if you ask yourself where you're spinning your wheels. So when people take a look at their life and really look at what they want, are you meeting that? Do you love your life? Are you limiting yourself? And do you feel that you're spinning your wheels? And if you feel like you're spinning your wheels or the same thing keeps happening over and over again and you're getting frustrated in certain ways, then it might be time to take a look at what might be holding you back, whether it's a fear or a challenge or a negative pattern. And if that's the case, then it's better to get started on it as soon as possible so that you can get into that space of really creating the life that you love without compromising who you are. I think that's a huge piece.
And when you went on this journey and decided you're going to switch over to a new career, how did that make you feel? Like, how was, like, were you nervous? Because that to me is very scary. Like, one day you're like, I'm done with being a chemist or whatever it was, and I'm going to do a whole new career. How did you say, this is it, I'm going to do it, and kind of conquer your fear? Because I'm assuming there was some kind of, oh no, what am I doing?
This is a super fun day. I actually went into work and I just kind of went into this meditative state when I sat down at my desk and I felt like I'm getting laid off today. And I just saw this vision of this thing happening, and I called home and I said, I think I'm getting laid off today.
And you had no inkling
None
previous
whatsoever.
to that?
There was nothing to indicate that, except I could feel like that was coming because of the mercury poisoning and, that being a liability and all that. So I ended up packing up my stuff before I even had any indication that was going to happen. Packed it up, put everything in piles of, work undone, work done, all that.
Before anyone said
before
anything?
anything.
This is amazing.
And then as soon as I was done that, I got an email that came through. Because I was usually there a lot earlier than most people because of my commute. And when I got this email in, it was kind of interesting because you couldn't see who was on it. And it was with the vice president. And so I called up a colleague and I said, hey, did you get this invite? And he said, no, what meeting? And I said, okay, well, thanks. It was really great working with you, blah, blah, blah. And, an hour later, I was sitting in a meeting where I was getting laid off. So immediately I switched gears and said, it's time for me to do what I've always wanted to do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Isn't it the way you kind of spun that, so to speak? Like, most people, when they get laid off, might be devastated.
Right.
Like, my income, with health care, thinking about all the security type things.
Yes.
And you're like, this is an opportunity.
It was.
How did you get your mindset to see that as an opportunity versus, I don't want to say failure, it's not a failure, as something negative? Like, you spun that completely to, nope, now I have a chance to do what I've always wanted to do.
Right.
How did you get your mindset that way? Because that's not easy to do.
That's what I do. But that was part of my whole transformational process, and mindset is everything. And that was the one piece that I had a solid mindset when everything else was crumbling. My job, my relationships, my health, and also because of my health, I had to liquidate all my retirement assets to pay for the health care.
Yeah, healthcare.
So everything was destroyed.
Yep.
Except for that. So.
And but look at you now. But it's true how Your mind is so powerful. I don't think we realize how
Yes.
powerful it is sometimes.
Yes,
It's
it's very powerful.
Yeah. So,
Tap into it.
So now, how long have you been doing this career? We'll
I've
say.
had Majik LLC for 12 years.
12
Coming up on 12 years in April.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And how do people find out about you? Word of mouth or?
Word of mouth, different workshops or appearances that I do. I have a lot more online presence now. I'm on Facebook and through my website.
That's amazing. And in those 12 years, I'm sure you've kind of developed yourself more and more.
Yes.
What have you learned along the way that you're like, oh, I'm not going to do it that way anymore? And what have you said, this is the way to do it? Like normal kind, I hate to say, but I know it's a business, right?
It is
Normal
business.
business failures and successes. What have you learned along the way?
I guess I would say not really failures aren't really failures. They're
Yeah.
just lessons learned and how to pivot into spaces and learn from what you might consider mistakes along the way. Successes are always I'm very humbled by the impact that I have on other people's lives. And just when, I just had a workshop where people said this was the most profound spiritual experience that I've ever had in my entire life.
That's amazing.
And it was, things like that. Just want to impact people's lives in a positive way so that they can really live life to the fullest.
Now think about 12 years ago and think about today.
Oh my God.
Did you ever think?
No.
Now you're here.
Yes.
But you took a huge step.
Yes.
That a lot of people be like, this safe place over here seems really
Yes.
secure.
Yes.
This not so safe space over here, it's a little frightening.
It is a little frightening.
But you did it.
It should be.
Yeah. I think sometimes when you're a little scared though, it actually makes you more successful
Yeah.
because you're actually like, oh, I can do this. It gives you more
Yes.
empowerment.
Yes. An accomplishment when you actually achieve what you set out to do, no matter how scared you might have been.
Yeah. And when you first started out, how many people, how long did it take you to kind of build up to where you're like, okay, I feel secure in many ways?
How
How
maybe
long?
about 10 years.
1 decade. The second decade.
I guess it depends because there
Yeah.
are different levels of
Yeah.
feeling that. So in order for me to go ahead, I had to feel secure in certain areas, and then you just keep developing and going to new levels. That's how we do.
Now, is there trainings and stuff that you take and whatnot?
I do have a business strategist coach.
Okay.
Because we all need coaching in different areas. And, I like to help people. It's not always, my focus is not always on what to do with my business and how to get to the place to help people. So
Yeah.
that's where I get coaching.
I get that. Well, it was so nice to speak with you.
You as
And
well.
this show has been amazing, and I've learned so much, so I truly appreciate your time. And Nicole Majik of Majik LLC, thank you very much.
Thank you.